The pregnant woman had just gotten out of the car when someone covered her mouth and nose, forcibly dragged her into the vehicle, and committed an indecent assault. As the child was born, she noticed that the baby's appearance bore a striking resemblance to the man who had harmed her. Although doctors told her it was all in her imagination, she remained convinced that the physical evidence had affected the child's blood. Watching the child grow day by day, the woman couldn't shake her unease. Eventually, she completely broke down and jumped from a high-rise building with the child. Tragically, the man who hurt her showed not a trace of remorse and was sentenced to only 4 years in prison. This is the plot of the newly released South Korean crime thriller The Murder Report. The story begins with a journalist named Baek Sun-ju. Not long ago, she received an anonymous call claiming to be from the serial offender responsible for recent cases. He offered her an exclusive interview on the condition that she not alert the police. He stated that if she accepted the interview, it might give the next potential victim a chance to survive. Baek Sun-ju agreed. Although she didn't contact the police, she enlisted the help of her police officer friend, Han Sang-woo. Baek Sun-ju asked Han Sang-woo not to report it, yet they would confirm whether the caller was truly the serial offender before taking action. Han Sang-woo thought it might be a hoax, since the serial offender had left no traces at any crime scene. Still, he decided to cooperate discreetly with Baek Sun-ju. The anonymous caller had already booked a hotel room under Baek Sun-ju's name. However, when she went to collect the key card, she noticed the hotel's surveillance cameras were under maintenance. It reminded her that in the past few years, surveillance lines had been tampered with at every crime scene. This made Baek Sun-ju take the caller more seriously. So Baek Sun-ju put on an earpiece, duplicated her room key card, and placed the copy inside a box in the elevator. After entering the room, she quickly set up the interview area and hid several discreet cameras around. Han Sang-woo, who had taken the key card, booked another room downstairs to monitor their movements in real time.
비디오 오디오 양호. 선주야, 생각 바뀌었으면 지금이라도 얘기해. 내가 해결할 테니.
할 수 있어.
Once everything was ready, the man claiming to be the offender rang the doorbell right on time. When she opened the door, she saw a man who appeared quite refined, though it occurred to her that such people could often be wolves in sheep's clothing. To verify his identity, Baek Sun-ju asked the most direct question: how could he prove he was the offender? The man simply showed her a video on his phone footage of him assaulting someone. Although Han Sang-woo could also hear the screams from the phone, he couldn't confirm whether this man was truly the offender. He could only hope Baek Sun-ju would give him a signal. After watching the video, Baek Sun-ju grew tense. At this point, having confirmed that the other party was the real serial offender, she had no choice but to continue the interview. She decided to first probe the other party's motives and the reason why he had actively agreed to this interview. The man stated that he was actually a doctor, and his primary reason for doing those things was to treat his patients. Hearing this, Baek Sun-ju initially thought his motive might be what's called punishing evil and promoting good. But unexpectedly, the man clarified that he was simply a doctor who wanted to cure his patients.
제가 죽인 사람들, 아니, 정확히 말해 암덩어리들이죠. 제 환자들 영혼에 상처를 내고 기생하는 암세포들. 전 그걸 제거해서 환자들을 치료한 것뿐입니다.
Hearing him compare such actions to medical treatment, Baek Sun-ju proceeded to ask him if he had already identified the next target. After all, in their previous phone call, the man had said that this interview was related to the safety of the next target. Before confirming the victim's safety, she told the man the interview could not continue. Baek Sun-ju's goal was to draw out information from him, allowing Han Sang-woo, who was hidden, to investigate. But the man did not comply as she hoped.
싫은데요?
네?
싫다고요.
Seeing that the other party was not cooperating, she stopped the recording, handed the memory card to the man, and stated that she would never disclose any information about this interview, suggesting the man find someone else instead. Observing Baek Sun-ju's actions, Han Sang-woo downstairs prepared to rush in and apprehend this person, but before Baek Sun-ju could leave the room, the man changed both of their minds with just one sentence.
기자님께서 이 방을 나가는 순간 그 사람은 죽습니다.
공범이 있다는 거야?
공범이 있다는 건가요?
The man disdainfully stated that there was no need for anyone else in this matter. Since Baek Sun-ju was so eager to know who the target was, he would definitely tell her once the interview was over. These words immediately left both Baek Sun-ju and the hidden Han Sang-woo in a dilemma. If they apprehended him directly, they might not only fail to extract information but also provoke fierce resistance from him.
범인도 잡고 특종도 따고 인질까지 살려보자 이거지.
In the end, Baek Sun-ju, who proactively returned to her seat, made the decision on behalf of Han Sang-woo. After reaching an agreement, Baek Sun-ju asked the other party why he had to take the risk of accepting her interview. After all, in the past 11 cases, the police had found no clues about him. By accepting her interview now, he would inevitably risk exposure. The other party did not answer this question directly but instead said he wanted to tell Baek Sun-ju a story. He said he had a friend. This friend married a very beautiful wife, and soon after the marriage, they had a child. Unexpectedly, one day when the woman was returning home alone, she encountered a criminal, which was exactly the scene at the beginning. After being harmed, the woman developed severe psychological issues and, ultimately unable to overcome the pain, jumped off a building holding her child. Hearing this, Baek Sun-ju cautiously asked if the protagonist of the story was actually him. After calming his emotions, the man silently acknowledged it.
들켜버렸네요.
He then continued, saying his greatest regret was that, as a psychiatrist, he had failed to help his wife recover. He had originally lost the will to live, but when he saw that the person who harmed his wife was sentenced to only 4 years in prison, he suddenly found a clear purpose in life: to wait for this person to be released and settle the matter with his own hands. From then on, he began training himself intensively and learning various methods. Unexpectedly, just one day before the perpetrator's release, this person was involved in an accident caused by an electrical leakage at the correctional facility. To him, this outcome was far too lenient for the other party. However, with the target gone, he lost his reason to live. In the days that followed, he began using various methods to numb himself, but it wasn't until the appearance of a patient that his perspective changed. With just one look, he sensed that this person, like himself, was someone who had lost all hope.
선생님이 있어.
Sure enough, through this person's account, the doctor learned what had happened to him. Not long before, a drunk driver had hit and killed the man's wife, and his son had consequently become vegetative. Though furious at the unfairness of fate, the man persevered for the sake of his son in the hospital bed. However, one day several years later, he saw the person who had destroyed his family again. Seeing that the other party continued to live without a burden, the man decided to run him over and kill him. But at the critical moment, remembering his son in the hospital bed, the man ultimately restrained this impulse. From then on, however, it became his inner demon. Therefore, when he sought psychiatric treatment from the doctor instantly found a new reason to live.
그 사람 죽여드릴까요?
At first, the patient did not agree, but when the doctor shared his own ordeal with him, the man, who deeply empathized, consented to the doctor's treatment plan. So one night, after cutting off all surveillance lines, the doctor directly took away the drunk driver. Although it was his first time committing such an extreme act, he did not feel a trace of fear. When the doctor showed the patient photos of the victim, observing the patient's expression, he not only felt satisfaction but also confirmed that his direction was correct. Hearing this, in Baek Sun-ju's view, this was merely the sophistry of someone who had forgotten his duty as a doctor, but the other party stated that he had not forgotten his so-called duty, because he truly prioritized his patient's psychological well-being. Regardless of the doctor's explanation, Baek Sun-ju simply could not agree, and the two subsequently engaged in a debate. Just then, the doorbell suddenly rang.
룸서비스일 거예요. 올라오는 길에 먹을 걸 좀 시켰거든요.
Soon, a waiter pushed a food cart inside, and the other party promptly closed the door. After setting the plates, the doctor prepared to give him a tip. but just as the waiter reached for the money, the doctor suddenly asked if his name was In Zai-ji.
그러니까 저 아시냐고요?
저 새끼 뭐 하는 거야?
Under the spread of a fatal toxin, the waiter immediately collapsed on the spot. Faced with this scene, both Baek Sunju and the hidden Han Sang-woo were caught off guard. The doctor explained that for 3 years, this waiter had been secretly filming guests to blackmail them, and most importantly, he had ruined a young woman's life. He told Baek Sunju not to be afraid, as this waiter was not the target they had agreed upon. The doctor then continued recounting his experiences. To find suitable patients, he began offering free psychological consultations voluntarily. As many people suffering in pain shared their stories, he correspondingly provided each with their own treatment plan. With the patient's consent, one operation after another was set in motion.
잠시하게.
치료 효과는 있었나요?
물론이죠.
Hearing this, Han Sang-woo could no longer stay put. He instructed Baek Sunju through the communication device to keep the other party steady while he went up to apprehend him. Unexpectedly, the duplicated room key card that Baek Sunju had turned out to be unable to open the door at the critical moment. Realizing something was wrong, Han Sang-woo could only instruct Baek Sunju to continue keeping the doctor steady while he figured out another approach. The two had previously devised a plan. If the other party was truly a dangerous individual, Baek Sunju could use a stun device disguised as a pen for protection. With the interview clearly nearing its end, Han Sang-woo told Baek Sunju to extract information about the final target, after which he would force his way in. But just as Baek Sunju asked the question, the doctor suddenly spoke up.
안 그래도 오늘 형사 한 분을 만나 뵙기로 약속을 잡아놨거든요. 아까부터 아래층에서 기다리고 계셨는데
뭐라는 거야, 저 새끼가?
이제 곧 올라오실 거예요.
It turned out the doctor had long been aware of Han Sang-woo's presence. Seeing the situation turning dire, Han Sang-woo prepared to forcibly rescue Baek Sunju, but he discovered the door was now firmly locked. At that moment, the phone in the room suddenly rang. However, when he answered the call, he found there was no sound on the other end. Just as he was puzzled, an unidentified gas began spreading through the room, and instantly, Han Sang-woo lost consciousness and collapsed to the floor. As it turned out, the ringing of the phone had triggered a sound-activated device, which released the gas. Simultaneously, Baek Sunju also chose to act. Unfortunately, her move was successfully blocked by the doctor, who even subdued her, causing her to fall unconscious. It was unclear how much time had passed before Baek Sunju finally woke up. By now, she was restrained, and an eerie atmosphere filled the room. What followed would bring the plot's biggest reversal. Baek Sunju was forced to become the subject of this interview, while the doctor became the one asking questions.
기자님을 직접 만나서 확인해보고 싶은 게 있었거든요. 생각이 복잡해진 표정이시네요?
Baek Sunju could not understand why the other party would target her. Meanwhile, Han Sang-woo downstairs was also restrained. Clearly, both had become pawns in the doctor's hands. Baek Sunju was still bewildered until the doctor demanded she confess the bad deeds she had committed in the past. She hurriedly stated that she had never done anything against her conscience, but the doctor did not believe her and even picked up a tool to remind her. Unexpectedly, the other party only gestured with it and then loosened the restraints on her. As the atmosphere in the room gradually eased, Baek Sunju began to ponder the true purpose behind the doctor's actions. She guessed it might be related to a case she had investigated before, so she tentatively brought up the matter of Ilsun Group. To her surprise, the doctor looked completely blank upon hearing this. Before Baek Sunju could explain further, Han Sang-woo downstairs attempted to break free but inadvertently alerted the doctor, who was monitoring from upstairs. Sensing something amiss, the man took out his phone. However, after viewing the video of Han Sang-woo, he showed it to Baek Sunju, commenting on Han Sang-woo's incompetence in the process. In order to save her partner's life, Baek Sunju proactively disclosed the matter concerning Ilsun Group. That was about a year ago. A man named Men Shi-hwan contacted Baek Sunju, saying he had inside information to report to a journalist. It turned out that during the development of a new drug, the Ilsen Group had produced problematic medication due to management negligence, which led to an abnormal increase in the incidence of related local diseases. To cover this up, the Ilsen Group engaged in improper practices, and this Min Shihuan was someone who knew about the matter. Perhaps out of a guilty conscience, Min Shihuan gave a piece of evidence to Baek Sunju, hoping she could make the matter public. At this point, the doctor couldn't help but tease, never expecting Baek Sunju to be such a righteous person. Later, Baek Sunju did intend to take on the report, but just as she had completed all the preparations, the evidence hidden in her home unexpectedly went missing, and surprisingly, that very night, Min Shihuan also tragically died in a car accident. Just like that, the only evidence and the only witness both disappeared, and Baek Sunju even received an anonymous report accusing her of colluding with the Ilsen Group. Therefore, to protect its reputation, the television station had no choice but to let Baek Sunju go. After hearing all this, the doctor suddenly asked Baek Sunju a question.
진짜 결백하신 거 맞죠?
맞다니까요.
따님 목숨을 걸고도 대답할 수 있으세요?
내 딸 함부로 입에 담지 마. 난 결백해.
Perhaps having gotten the response he wanted, the doctor no longer held back. He directly told Baek Sunju that it was actually he who made that anonymous report back then. This left Baek Sunju stunned, as she simply couldn't understand what this person was trying to do. So the doctor began to explain that the reason he did this was to bring Baek Sunju here. While speaking, the doctor took out his phone again. On the video, Han Sang-woo was still anxiously trying to break free. Through the video, the doctor made a few more comments about Han Sang-woo's actions. Seeing this, Baek Sunju quickly explained that this matter had nothing to do with Han Sang-woo and pleaded for his release. The doctor curiously asked what exactly the relationship was between the two of them. Left with no choice, Baek Sunju could only reveal their secret that they were longtime friends as well as lovers. Upon hearing this, the doctor became deeply frustrated, while Baek Sunju felt somewhat confused. Then the doctor went on to say that the person who had taken the evidence back then was actually Han Sang-woo. Hearing this, Baek Sunju naturally didn't believe it, but what the doctor said next struck her like a thunderbolt. It turned out that Han Sang-woo, as a highly capable violent crimes detective, had long been a thorn in the side of certain unlawful organizations. To deal with this problem, the unlawful organizations specifically set up a trap for him. Han Sang-woo would never have imagined that the beautiful encounter before him was actually a trap, so when he became deeply involved, he completely fell into the grasp of the unlawful organizations, who successfully obtained leverage over him. Thus, under constant pressure, Han Sang-woo gradually changed. To retrieve the evidence, the Ilsen Group contacted Han Sang-woo. After negotiation, both parties agreed that if Han Sang-woo could retrieve the evidence, the Ilsen Group would help him secure a promotion opportunity. Han Sang-woo believed this would allow him to break free from the forces controlling him. Unexpectedly, the outcome was quite surprising. The people from the Ilsen Group were not simple characters either. After successfully obtaining the evidence, they did not intend to fully keep their promise, as they had already grasped Han Sang-woo's situation. Thus, Han Sang-woo could only remain in a passive position. After hearing this, Baek Sunju was visibly distraught, but the other party told her to brace herself. As the story was not yet over, it turned out that on the day the evidence was stolen, Han Sang-woo had secretly slipped into her home while Baek Sunju was away. He thought that deliberately ransacking the house to make it look like a burglary would prevent anyone from suspecting him. But he never expected Baek Sunju's daughter, Eelin, to suddenly return home. Seeing that he had been exposed, and to ensure Eelin would not speak out, he came up with a terrible plan. These words made Baek Sunju too afraid to listen further. She absolutely refused to believe Han Sang-woo could do such a thing. Eelin had always relied on him like family, which was why Han Sang-woo understood the girl so well. He knew Eelin was very sensitive and that if certain things happened, she would never dare to speak up. Only in this way could she be made to stay silent. Learning such a shocking truth, Baek Sunju instantly broke down and insisted to the doctor that none of this could be true. However, to make Baek Sunju face the facts, the doctor explained that everything he had done today was actually to help her understand the truth. He was able to grasp the situation because one of the staff members here was his patient, and the previously dealt with attendant was part of the other's treatment plan. Knowing that his own words alone might not be convincing, the doctor took out his phone and suggested Baek Sunju call her daughter to verify. Baek Sunju dialed Elin's number.
혜린아, 너
지금 의사 선생님이랑 같이 있어? 엄마 미안해. 내가 진작 말하려고 했는데.
The child's words clearly confirmed the facts. It seemed what the doctor said was indeed the truth. After hanging up, the doctor asked her what she intended to do next. Baek Sunju then suggested the idea of meeting Han Sang-woo. This time, the doctor did not stop her. Instead, before Baek Sunju left, he reminded her of one thing.
무슨 일이 있어도 기자님 자신을 믿으셔야 합니다.
By now, Han Sang-woo had finally broken free from his restraints, and his first thought was to leave this place. Unexpectedly, as he was about to exit, he saw Baek Sunju. Baek Sunju directly confronted him, asking if he had done that kind of thing to Elin. Upon hearing this, Han Sang-woo immediately denied it. Overwhelmed with emotion, Baek Sunju directly pointed a weapon at him. The man was instantly startled, but he continued to insist that he had never done such a thing. Urging Baek Sunju not to be deceived by the doctor, he claimed that, as a psychiatrist, the doctor was certainly skilled in psychological manipulation and that perhaps Elin had been influenced by him. Right now, they needed to leave this place as soon as possible. Faced with Han Sang-woo's explanation, could it really be that the doctor had deceived her? Seeing that Han Sang-woo was about to regain the upper hand, Baek Sunju suddenly recalled the doctor's words, and she also remembered that on the day the evidence went missing, her daughter's mood seemed particularly low. Especially the way she looked at Han Sang-woo was very strange. As it turned out, everything had actually left traces. Realizing this, Baek Sunju once again aimed her weapon at Han Sang-woo, and the man finally dropped his pretense. He swiftly disarmed her, and as a former elite, Baek Sunju was no match for him. He quickly overpowered Baek Sunju. He completely revealed his true self, giving rise to extreme thoughts. At this critical moment, the doctor arrived. Han Sang-woo hurriedly grabbed Baek Sunju and pointed the weapon at the doctor, intending to deal with both of them and then stage the scene. But just as he was about to act, he discovered there were no bullets inside, and he realized he had actually been set up. Seizing the opportunity, Baek Sunju swiftly injected a dose of medication into his leg. As Han Sang-woo slowly collapsed to the ground, Baek Sunju also slumped down. Seeing the woman emotionally shattered, the doctor stepped forward to comfort her. He told her to leave the rest to him and asked Baek Sunju to go home first, but emphasized that she must give her daughter a good hug upon returning. After Baek Sunju left, Han Sang-woo did not lose his life but was taken by the doctor to a hidden location. Under Han Sang-woo's furious gaze, the doctor carried out an action. As the scene shifted, with the doctor's help, Elin's mental state showed clear improvement. It turned out that from the beginning, this girl had been the other party's patient, and everything that had happened so far was part of his treatment plan for her. Before the girl left, the doctor expressed a desire to meet her mother. As Baek Sunju entered the room, the doctor noticed she still hadn't fully recovered from the harsh truth, so he asked if she needed genuine psychological help. However, the woman said this was a consequence she had to bear, and she must face it to gradually find peace. But before leaving, she made a very thought-provoking statement.
손에 묻은 피 잘 지워지지 않을 텐데.
After Baek Sunju left, the doctor fell into deep thought. Thus, the film comes to an end.